Welcome back everybody to another League 6 Demonic Pact reveals video. Today was a big one, at least for me anyway, because I worked with Jagex to put out a video explaining the echo bosses, their items, and I will have a builds video going up not long after this one. I'm not sure if it'll be out on the same day, maybe it'll be tomorrow. However, it will be out there going through some incredibly strong builds with Demonic Pacts that synergize with echo weapons and region combinations. You won't want to miss that. But today, in light of the echo boss and echo item reveal, I actually want to go through and rank all of the echo items. We're doing a tier list, baby. I want to start by saying that this tier list is a little different because there really isn't a bad tier. There's no F tier, as you can see. We've got God tier, we've got insane, we've got also insane, but not for me. And then we've got very nice, but niche. So none of the echo items are bad. And I want to start with the very first echo item that will be available to everyone. This is the one from Varlamore, from Echo and Moxliatl. It is the Infernal Tech Paddle. I love the design of this weapon. It is really good. Unfortunately, it's not a light weapon, so it still feels a little slow to use, but it's quite a strong weapon. It does fuse all of the double hitting weapons from Nagua's, so the Sulfur Blades, the Glacial Tomotli, and the Earthbound Tech Paddle. It has a decent amount of strength bonus, but the Blood Moon Boppers are actually just straight up better for strength bonus, for stab, and for crush. This wins out when it comes to slash, but that is about it. So for me, in the back of my mind, this is the stepping stone. This is what you get before you go and do moons. It is incredibly strong. It does have Demon Bane, so I will say that because it has Demon Bane, this is a very good replacement for something like a Crystal Halberd or a Dragon Halberd on Doom. You can go up and punish with this. It will hit 4 times with the special attack, and it's incredibly good for Doom. Demon Bane, very strong special attack that hits 4 times like the Dragon Claws. But I have to acknowledge this is really a stepping stone weapon. It is a huge upgrade at the very early game. Some people are going to have this on day 1, and at that point it's going to feel God tier. But the day after that, as soon as you step into moons, this might be something you drop and only really use for Demon Bane situations or to use it for its special attacks. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in very nice but niche, because I do think it's good. Again, none of these tiers are bad. Honestly, these are all like S tier, but they're just like different variations on S tier. So this is a very nice item, but it's niche. The special attack feels particularly good when you do spec into something on the mastery tree that gives you special attack energy on hit, because those 4 hits from the special attack from this are going to work with that and restore 2% special attack energy per hit. So you're going to be refunding a lot of special attack energy with pretty much any double hitting weapon, but particularly with this one, it does feel good for that reason. If this was a light weapon, it would be unbelievably unbalanced. So I do like that they decided to make it a heavy weapon, which does make it work really nice with the blind bag. If after day 2, day 3 of League 6, you have this weapon plus all of the double hitting weapons, maybe you've got the Blood Moon Boppers, maybe you've also got some of the other ones from Nagua still in your inventory, you can actually fill out those heavy melee weapons that work with blind bag very quickly, and that works out as probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, early game DPS spike in League 6, considering we start in Varlamore. So I kind of do feel bad putting it in very nice but niche. Again, it's still incredible. All right, next we're talking about Kandarin, and we're going to start with the Devil's Element. Now, the Devil's Element, it has come back from last year, but it is even stronger this year. So it still works quite similarly to last year, where the way it works is if you are attacking something with magic with an element that it is weak to, it exaggerates that weakness. So if something has a 30% elemental weakness, it will go up to 60, and that is pretty neat. But the addition this year is that it also applies elemental weaknesses to things that don't have one. And this is massive because you no longer feel bad if you pick regions where it's quite hard to exploit elemental weakness consistently. And that was the kind of fall off with Kandarin last year. So this year it is a big buff, not just to Kandarin, but to magic in general. The stats that this item comes with are pretty crazy for an offhand item. Additional magic damage, prayer bonus, magic accuracy. By itself, it's quite hard to rank, but considering it comes with another echo item. I'm going to wait until we talk about the next one, and then I'll rank these two together. The next item is the fork. It is the Shadow Flame Quadrant, the second echo item that Thermi drops. There is a lot to say about this weapon. It obviously works incredibly well with the Devil's Element. And first of all, when you equip it, it works as an unlimited supply of any elemental runes. So they've kind of moved that from the Devil's Element. And the other nice passive is that it can auto cast from all spell books. It has insane stat padding with it, crazy magic damage, good magic accuracy, no negative bonuses. This is just an all-round great stuff, even without what it does next, and that is the craziest part. When using elemental spells on the standard spellbook with the Shadow Flame Quadrant, you're going to fire a second spell, or at least there's going to be a second projectile that deals a portion of the damage of the first projectile. And yes, this works for surge spells, so it's like an upgraded Twin Flame Staff, if you will. The second projectile is really nice. Yes, it leads to an increase in DPS, but I really feel like what shines the most about this weapon is the passive effect that's applied to the elements. So on top of everything else we've mentioned, when you attack with an elemental spell with the Shadow Flame Quadrant, it will automatically apply the elemental weakness that the target you're attacking is weak to. And that happens regardless of the spell you cast. And when I first read the description of that, it even confused me a little bit. So let me explain quickly. If you were to cast a fire spell, right, and you have spec'd into some fire packs in the mastery tree, it's going to apply the buff that the fire pack gives. But let's say the target that you're attacking is weak to water. You're casting a fire spell, but as it hits, it's applying the water elemental weakness, which on top of exploiting the elemental weakness, buffing you with fire spells, can be buffed even further with the Devil's Element. So, you know, if you end up wanting to go down a magic build this league and you spec into all 4 elements and you go full avatar mode, you know, you can switch between those elements to get the buffs and bonuses from the Elemental Pact, but it would always apply the spell or the element that that target is weakest to. And that leads to like this really cool versatile kind of switching of elements playstyle. It's super fun. TLDR, double cast, can auto cast from all spellbooks, incredible stats, always automatically exploits elemental weaknesses, stacks even more elemental weakness with the Devil's Element and applies it to creatures without one. So these two items compared together, they're god tier. I've got to say they're god tier. Up they go. Right up there. While we're on the topic of elements, let's talk about Echo Cerberus's weapon. And this is from Asgarnia. It's called the Fang of the Hound, but I think the League's community in general have kind of gone to calling it the Dogger. And I know Husky's not too happy with that, but listen, I think it's hilarious. Let's keep going. So the Dogger. Okay, the Dogger is a one-handed dagger. It is a light weapon, first of all, so it benefits from all of those light weapon melee masteries where you hit twice, you can increase your special attack, you get extra attack speed, you can get extra melee strength based on your strength level. There's a lot of good melee mastery packs that synergize with this, and that's probably only half the weapon. When you attack with the Dogger, there is a chance on hit to cast the Flames of Cerberus spell, which does count as a fire spell. So if you spec into the fire tree on the Demonic Pacts, yes, it will benefit from those, but also it will also increase the damage of the Flames of Cerberus. If you spec into like magic damage, if you have like an ancestral set of gear on, you can buff this up through your magic damage scaling. I absolutely love the hybrid effectiveness of this weapon. Not only is it cool to see a dagger in the league that's actually really decent without relying on like a special attacking relic, it's so much fun. And it actually does come with a special attack as well. I think they settled on 50% energy and that just performs an instant hit. So, you know, you're already hitting really quite fast with a dagger with the melee packs. You're hitting twice with it as well. And you can chain in 2 instant hits for 100% spec. Pairs really nicely with the melee mastery pack that builds up special attack energy on hit. And this is going to be really nice for anyone who wants to either go down a melee and magic kind of hybrid build, or maybe you want to focus more around like a dump in specs build. It's got so many versatile uses. It is a really fun weapon to use. This one, ladies and gents, is absolutely god tier, because one other thing I haven't mentioned yet is that when you proc that Flames of Cerberus effect, it does like a karambit, like inspect animation, like from Counter-Strike, if you've ever played that. Like they spin the knife round, pull it down. It's chef's kiss, man. It's chef's kiss. All right, on to Tyrannwyn and the Crystal Blessing. Now, on the face of it, this seems like the same thing from last year. It just gives 5 flat prayer bonus. However, the passive effect extension this year is kind of crazy. So last year, the Crystal Blessing extended the Crystal Armor bonuses, which give you accuracy and damage, over to melee weapons. And this year it does that, but it also extends it to powered staves. So things like a trident, an ayak, a sang, a shadow. This goes really, really well with magic builds this year. And listen, I haven't done the maths, but I have looked at the numbers. A full set of crystal with the Crystal Blessing and a shadow actually gives you more magic % strength than wearing a full set of ancestral, because the shadow does multiply the bonuses from the crystal armor set when the Crystal Blessing is worn. So this is a crazy buff to anyone who typically goes for like magic shadow gameplay and feels like, oh man, I have to lock in, you know, Zaya at the very least. But realistically this year, as long as you lock in one raid region and get a shadow, you can pick Tyranwin, have so much fun with this, and then have like a totally free region to do whatever you want with. I think even just Crystal Armor and Shadow go so hard. If you throw Kandarin in the mix as well, man. Magic aside, Crystal Blessing working on all melee weapons gave it just the best melee DPS last year. If you had full crystal and a scythe, it was going crazy. You're going to be able to do that again. It's just a good all-round item, and although I'm slightly reluctant to put it in God tier, this paired with so many different combinations, even with something like the Dogger that we just talked about, would be crazy. You're getting the magic benefit, you're getting the melee benefit. It works great with both of those. So I'm going to go and put it ahead into the insane tier. I think that's fair. It's a utility echo item. It buffs the strength of other echo items and other region combinations. By itself, it doesn't do all that much. So you need to be a bit creative when thinking about how to use this. Insane tier feels right. Now we have the echo weapon from Grotesque Guardians in Mauritania. It is the Lithic scepter, aka the Gargler. Now I think on the face of it, people look at anything that drops from Echo Grotesque Guardians and think it's going to be mid because it's dropping from a kind of mid-level Slayer boss, level 75 Slayer for Grotesque Guardians. But I could not disagree more when it comes to this. Last year with the Barrows gloves, they were a little bit underwhelming, I have to say, but the Gargler is crazy. So it is a powered stave. It will go down to 1 tick when you spec into the powered stave attack speed reduction on the magic tree in the Masteries. And when you attack with the Gargler, you build up stacks of shatter. I think the best way to explain this is to think of the Sunlight Spear from Leagues 5. You build up a stack every time you hit. When you have at least 5 stacks, you can click your spec bar and you will just like blow up your main target and deal AoE damage around that target as well. That damage is typeless, so considering you get this in Mauritania as well, it is fantastic in something like the Nilo's room. It is also just great in general for like going through Slayer tasks really quick, and the single target damage is actually really effective as well. Now, the Sunlight Spear got down to 2 ticks, which did mean that its stacks built up a little bit slowly, but the fact you can get this down to 1 tick means that you are going to build up those shatter stacks so quickly. You know, if you build up 14 stacks, which is the max stack cap on this, you can spec twice, get 1 hit in, and then spec again. It goes so hard, and it feels really fun to use. You do have to charge this with Earth and Body runes. I don't think that's a negative, really. Very easy, attainable runes for everyone to get. And it's an incredibly powerful staff for how early you can get it. This is going to be the biggest early to mid-game magic spike that you can get, unless you're one of those lucky people who can spoon an Eye of Ayak from Doom, which, you know, undoubtedly there will be a lot of people out there that do that. But for people that don't do that, this is going to be really attainable at 75 Slayer. It's going to carry you through raids. It's going to be incredible until you get whatever that like high-end shopping item is that you really want. I think I'm going to go ahead and put this into the insane tier. It's not quite God tier for me. It definitely could be considered that way. You know, there are going to be plenty of endgame builds that focus around using this item that compete for DPS pretty damn well. All right, next up, the Drago blowpipe. Now, I think a lot of people saw the Drago blowpipe back this year and were immediately disappointed. I understand, you know, seeing the same weapon come back can, I guess, feel that way. However, I do have to say, I think the changes they made to it this year make it way more effective for leagues in particular. So the Drago still has that passive effect that's basically like a ranged Fang. It rolls for accuracy twice. It means you're going to see far fewer zeros. You're going to hit way more frequently. That passive works really well, but the big change this year is that they've moved away from the Venom thing. They don't want to compete with the toxic blowpipe, and I think that's nice for people that pick Tyranwin. So now you're going to get the Drago blowpipe that can apply a stacking burn effect. And a lot of people probably think Venom is better than Burn. The fights are generally much quicker because your DPS is higher. Burn procs much quicker, and it ticks much faster. Yes, it doesn't scale up to the same damage that Venom and Poison do, but because fights end quicker, you rarely get to see the big benefit from Venom and Poison. So the stacking burn effect actually gives you more DPS over a shorter period of time, which makes this a really effective weapon in leagues where you're going to be doing raids with other people. The fights are going to be ending pretty damn quick, so you're going to get value out of that burn, probably more than you're going to get value out of Venom. I think this weapon by itself can seem pretty lackluster, but you only have to look at the range throne tree, because blowpipes do count as thrown weapons in League 6. You look at that range throne tree, you can see that you can attack multiple enemies. You can see you get even more accuracy at the end of those kind of thrown mastery trees. So this basically never misses, it hits multiple targets, it spreads burn around, and then there's that one thrown weapon mastery that allows you to apply range strength to your weapon based on your melee strength. So if you were to pick something like Asgarnia plus Desert, and you have full Torva and a blowpipe, my god, I've seen the numbers on this. It is crazy, trust me. This could easily be God tier, and I feel like I may be being harsh on it just because it's returning from Leagues 5. I'm going to put it in insane tier. There it goes. Okay, the King's Barrage, the Echo KBD weapon. First of all, I just want to say the Echo KBD weapon, the King's Barrage, is probably my favorite designed Echo weapon. You know, the 2 dragon heads on a stock, it's a 2-handed crossbow, it fires 2 bolts. People are calling this the BBC. The big black crossbow. Again, I don't think Jagex are too happy with that, but I love it. I think it's really good. Okay, there's a lot to say about this weapon, and I'll go into more detail on my builds video, but the Echo KBD weapon, the King's Barrage, it fires 2 bolts. It is a 2-handed crossbow, so you can't equip anything in your offhand, but it fires 2 bolts. The first bolt is a ranged hit. That's just gonna hit with like your dragon bolts, whatever you've enchanted them with, that's fine. The second bolt hits as an ice spell. It technically counts as like an ice blitz or something because it freezes for 14.4 seconds, but it is an ice spell. It will freeze your target in place. There is a toggle option, so you can turn this off. That is a very nice bit of quality of life because I'm sure there are some NPCs around the game where it would actually just be more annoying than anything to like freeze them in place. So this works so well in so many places, and then you can, you know, toggle it off where maybe you think it's just going to come as a detriment. Now, crossbows in general this year, I really like how Jagex have leaned into the Demonic Packs for crossbows because they've kind of emphasized the feel of crossbows. They've gone from slow and relatively punchy to just, you know, tactical nukes now. And I really do think you want to spec into that mastery that makes the crossbow slower but hits 70% harder, particularly with this weapon, because you're going to be able to hit incredibly hard. And then if you go all the way down into the crossbow tree, you're always going to max hit on both of those bolts, and you're going to have incredible accuracy because your accuracy is increased as well. This weapon has some crazy synergy as like a mage range hybrid kind of build, because the second bolt that counts as an ice spell, you can go into that mage mastery tree. You can convert your ice spells to water spells. And what that immediately does is it means that that ice bolt that hits is going to bounce back and heal you. So just imagine that for a second with some of the demonic packs where you can overheal. If you max that out and then spec into the Demonic Pact on the range tree where you deal even more damage based on the difference between your current health and your kind of base HP level, yeah, you can hit over 100 with this thing. Honestly, this weapon, without a doubt, is God tier. It's God tier. I'm putting it up at the top. Over to Zaya, we have the Nature's Recurve. This is the bow from Hespori, and this bow is just all round relatively strong. It has good accuracy. The passive effect has a chance to heal you based on your damage dealt, and it will also restore some prayer as well. Considering how Hespori is typically one of those echo bosses that is very easy to do early, this is a fantastic pickup. It's kind of similar to the Infernal Tech Paddle, the echo item from Varlamore in a way. I feel like this is one of those items you go for early, and it kind of carries you through all the mid-game and even end-game content until you pick up like a T-bow, or until you pick up your like big ticket items. And even beyond that, the damage of this item is going to scale as you put better ammunition into it. So with something like Dragon Arrows, this can hit incredibly hard. And similar to the BBC, you know, this has been designed to work really well with bow masteries. The bow masteries will increase your minimum and maximum hit on successful hit. As long as you're not taking unavoidable damage as you ramp that up, you can get to some pretty crazy numbers with this. And because you're going into that bow tree where you speed up the attack speed of your bows, this thing's going to hit pretty quick. It's going to sustain you really well. And you don't need much to get this off the ground. You know, if you do pick up the Eclipse set from Valamor, then you unlock Zaya as your first region and you go and do Echo Spory, you've got an incredibly strong kind of range setup right there gear-wise that can carry you through most content. Now, I will say this bow deserves to be an insane tier. It is insane, but I have to say it's not for me. So I'm going to put it in that tier, although realistically, these two tiers are kind of the same bracket of strength. It is just that I'm going to try and avoid bows. Realistically, this is just a personal preference because I did a range build on my first playthrough last year, and I don't really want to go back down the road of bows again. However, for anyone else, this definitely sits in the same bracket, the same strength as things like the Drago blowpipe, the Lithic scepter, the Crystal Blessing. It is very, very strong. And if you've not messed around much with range builds before, you're going to have a great time with this item this year. The last item is V's helm from Fremennik. Man, I love this item. It's designed really well. I have to say off the bat that I am so glad Jagex did not make the stats of this so unbelievably overpowered that people feel pressured to pick Fremennik. I think they just said, you know what? Fremennik can kind of sit in the middle tier this year. And it's like, if people want to take it for its passive effect, they can, but they're not going to feel obliged to pick it to buff magic, to buff range, to buff melee. It's got nice all-round stats, yes, but it's not for that. So in addition to its nice stats, V's helm counts as an imbued Slayer helmet. So if you're not picking Culling Spree, right, this works as a really nice pickup. Maybe if you do want to get into some Slayer this year, but you don't want to take Culling Spree, V's helm is just a nice pickup. But honestly, the biggest selling point of this item is its passive effect. When you wear this item, there is a small chance, it's not a big chance, but there is a small chance to reduce the damage that you take on that hit to 0. So you wear this in the Inferno and you accidentally miss running the shield against Zuck and he just goes and hits you. And unfortunately, it's rolled a hit and it is going well over your natural hit point stat and it will probably one-shot you. However, V's helm is going to turn that into a 0 and you're going to be notified by a very satisfying kind of bonk noise. And when that effect procs, your next special attack within a minute is totally free. So for people who are thinking of maybe going down a Thorns build, this is a great addition to that because yes, when it reduces the damage to 0, it will still proc Thorns on the damage that it rolled before it got turned to a 0. So it can still work really well with the Thorns build. You will want to consider this if you want to go down that like completely AFK Din's Bulwark Justicia build, which also will be in my builds video. I'm sorry to keep going on about it, but it's my favorite build. But then also this works really well with like a ranged special attack build. If you're picking up like a Zarite crossbow in Asgarnia, you might want to stick a V's helm on. When that effect procs, you get a free Zarite crossbow spec. That could be really good for just getting a free Ruby bolt spec for like 110 damage. Really, really nice. Also great with melee specs like God Swords. There are a lot of options to use with this helmet. It is very versatile and it is very strong. As much as I want to put this in God tier, I am trying to be unbiased based on the Thorns build. And I'm going to say that this fills a very niche role. So I'm going to put it in the very nice, but very niche category. Honestly, it kind of deserves to be higher. However, I think people will only pick this up when they're doing Thorns or maybe like quite a niche special attacking focus build. I really think there's an argument that this could be much higher. However, it is just quite niche and I am only picking it on my Thorns builds. And that concludes our tier list. Here it is for you to see in all of its glory. Again, this tier list isn't really laid out to be like a here's what's good and here's what's bad. They're all really insane. And I guess I just have to apologize that if you've spent the last 3 days building your masteries, you may now want to go back to your tree and think, okay, what weapons can I actually include in this? And what new masteries might I want to try and path towards to get the most benefit out of them? Because I can guarantee you now, some of these are going to shine incredibly well with masteries, probably more so than what you've already planned. And I've already come up with some really, really good ones that I can't wait to share with you. That's going to be it from me today. If you enjoyed the Echo Boss video, if you enjoyed the tier list, if you are looking forward to the builds video that'll be coming soon, please don't forget to like the video, subscribe. It's totally free and we're closing in on 30,000 subscribers. So a big thank you for all of the support. A big thank you for tuning in through this kind of leagues reveal and hype season. And I can't wait to see what you guys cook up with these Echo items, with the masteries, with your regions. Feel free to drop into my Discord and share them with me. There's a link in in the description, and I will see you all next time.